So welcome to the first ever Get Off My Lawn Records podcast. We've got a show for you. We're gonna start with intros. I wrote it down on a piece of paper. She's got a piece of paper too, because we're not one of them millennials.
Sorry, I couldn't actually see the paper over the jacket.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to see. So we'll start with me. So I'm Donald. I'm W.Mohr. Hi, everybody. I'm a musician. I have a problem. So I started Get Off My Lawn Records, I don't know when, a while back. At least in brand only. We did our first release in January, I think is when we put out the Jazz Destroyers Live. And then a couple months ago, we put out my solo record, It's a Secret to Nobody, which I made on my iPad, which is why it's Pay What You Want. And I figure over the course of time, people will learn more and more about me, so that's probably enough for now. We don't need my whole life story. How about you, Greg? Who are you?
My name is Greg Sisko. I was born in West London.
This man is lying to you.
I don't know. My name is Greg Sisko. I don't know who I am. I write novels. I made a film about a guy who wants to be the next great writer, director, actor, singer, songwriter, stuntman, model, etc., etc.
Yeah?
And that was pretty much autobiographical, so that's pretty much who I am. You should,
Yeah, Thunderwake, right?
Yeah, Jesse Thunderwake, American Icon. I'll keep plugging it throughout this whole thing because I've got a million things to plug and no one's ever seen or read any of them.
Right.
So it works quite nicely. I've built up a lot of things that I can continue to plug because they're new to everyone there is.
That's right. So, and we'll go into how that'll work. But, awesome. Welcome, Greg. So the way we know Greg is that Greg has run cameras for us basically forever. We met Greg doing Jesse Thunderwake before Thunderwake, but Thunderwake was our first real big project together.
Right, where we were doing film and music because I knew film and you knew music.
Right, and it's basically the same thing.
It is pretty much kept up to where when you need a film guy or when I need a music guy, we do that stuff.
Right. So while none of those projects are specifically on Get Off My Lawn Records, you're just part of the family.
Yeah, we collaborated on a bunch of stuff.
Yeah. We'll have to put some of that. We could re-release some of that Thunderwake stuff. Thanksgiving's coming up. We should find the Thanksgiving song.
Oh God.
Yeah. And we'll cross-post that on the Facebook page and the YouTube page.
There's a Thanksgiving song?
Oh, yeah.
There is a Thanksgiving song.
Because in the annals of holiday songs, Thanksgiving is seriously lacking.
That's why we did a Thanksgiving song.
That's right. That's right. Now,
it's about being thankful for AIDS and cancer because we were trying to get shock value out of there.
I think we got some shock value. Thank you for taking that completely out of context. Now nobody's going to watch it.
I'm shocked right here in front of you, actually.
Yeah, I believe
but
that.
The important thing is, I still want to hear the song.
That's true. So we'll post that on the Facebook page. Let's Get Off My Lawn Records, and we'll also cross-post it on Jesse Thunderwake page. That's Jesse Thunderwake American Icon, which is you can watch it on YouTube. So
can we post Thanksgiving stuff before Halloween? Isn't that like a faux pas?
Oh, we should absolutely post Thanksgiving stuff before Halloween.
Now, let me just say that Jesse Thunderwake is a movie for film lovers.
Yeah, that's
If you
true.
are deeply immersed in film culture, more so than most, you're really going to be entertained by this movie. There's so many in-jokes and references that you will not get them all the first time.
And this is coming from a guy who wasn't part of it, right? So who the bleep are you?
Well, my name is Stephen Walker, and my origin point is in the Milky Way galaxy, though I'm not legally obligated to be any more specific than that. I speak cat, and you can also find me on the Escape from Ignorance podcast.
Oh shit, that might have peaked. Do that again, but a little quieter.
A little quieter. But you can also find me on the Escape from Ignorance podcast.
Yeah, you're a little hot. I'm going to take you down. That's okay. So, Escape from Ignorance. What is that?
So it is a podcast that is advocating for logic, science, reason, and civil discourse. Because all of those things are, well, not very abundant in our discourse today.
I would agree with that assessment. That's actually recorded here. And so we consider Escape from Ignorance part of the Get Off My Lawn family. And we promote it. We cross-post. And I'm not you post on Facebook a lot. And Twitter. You post a lot. I'm not sharing all that stuff. But you find a funny meme, we're on board.
But anyone can find me on Twitter at IrreverendW or on Facebook at Escape from Ignorance.
Yep. And when I edit it, I'll try to pop that up on the screen.
Irreverend with a D, not with a T. Irreverent. I mean, when you just state it, it sounds like irreverent.
That is a good point. So it is a play on words. It's sort of like the Reverend. I grew up as the son of a preacher. I'm now a hardened atheist, so you can imagine there was a fascinating journey between those two places. But, you know, my dad was a wonderful man, despite believing in some very silly things. And there's something beautiful about the way a preacher delivers a message. You know, everybody needs a preacher to help show them the way sometimes. And science is sadly lacking in good preachers.
There's some good ones. And we'll let's be sure we talk about that in our shout-outs. Because we got another section. How about you? Who are you? Who the bleep are you?
I'm Carissa. I have no idea what I did in a past life to deserve this.
Yeah. Well, you're married to me. And you're part of the label.
Yeah.
Maybe
I
it
feel
was
like
something
that
you
just
did
proves
in a
the premise.
current life.
Yeah.
You married this man.
I have made some questionable life choices.
It's not so bad.
Haven't we all?
It's not so bad.
The goal is not the mistakes you make, though. It's how you pick yourself up and carry on from those mistakes.
Oh, see, he's doing the irreverent walker now. He's out giving the advice unsolicited. I like that. That's really what that is. It's like you've got a viewpoint. You're trying to give advice. You're trying to sprinkle your wisdom on the world, and hopefully it wears away at the rock a little bit, and you have a positive effect.
Well, the only victory will be through a process of erosion.
Yep.
Right? You can't change hearts and minds all at once, except through very traumatic events that people have no control over.
That's right.
An individual person can only hope to change one individual mind.
And even then-
that
Yeah.
often
and
ends
I
with
think-
someone screaming at you.
It tends to be more like an individual person can only hope to be one of 100 people who change one individual mind. I mean,
That's also
it's
a valid
not,
point.
It's not usually one thing that you hear or read or whatever that changes your mind on anything important. It's a giant series of things that happen, and you slowly change.
That is an excellent point, because even with erosion, an individual gust of wind only ever takes a pebble or two off. Eventually, there'll be a gust that makes the whole mountainside come down, but that gust had no idea it was going to be the one to do it.
Right. You don't tip the thing until it's about to tip anyway.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I've been drinking. We've all been drinking.
Cheers.
Except
Cheers.
Cheers.
Except you. For very valid reasons. No, I don't understand them. So now we're on section 2. So just to give you guys the heads up, we're gonna release this video twice. The first way will be in probably what you're watching now, which is this complete uncut form, and we'll just release it in its entirety. It's gonna be long, but I like watching long stuff on YouTube. I figure other people like watching long stuff on YouTube. It's fewer ads.
Like 200 people have watched our movie.
Really?
It's up to about 200 views, I
That-
think.
Nice.
Last I checked.
That's not bad. That's better than most of the Freeform Fridays.
I mean, I have no idea how many bailed after 3 minutes, but
Oh, we can go look at the analytics.
we could.
Maybe one of these days we'll actually pull it up. Though I think that's technically against the terms of service to show your analytics.
Really.
I think it is. I was
Like-
actually just reading through that, which is kind of like crawling through the Sahara Desert with no water, really.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like you're going to take what we give you and we put it up. But I like YouTube. I don't really have cable anymore. Do you guys have cable?
Oh,
What is this cable you speak of?
Yeah, that's true. So like none of us watch cable news anymore, and I'm much happier for it. But then I get all my news from like, a bunch of other guys online we'll talk about in the shout-outs.
I had cable until not too long ago because I was a cable guy for a company whose name I won't mention. But yeah, I had free cable, free satellite, really. That was cool, but I don't really miss it since losing it.
I enjoyed, there were certain channels, mostly science-based channels, stuff like History or Discovery, where you turn it on and there'll be something interesting. And I, being just the worst wonk, can get sucked into anything. So when I had access to the History Channel, I'd turn it on and be like, an hour special on the history of the lawnmower. Let's watch this. And, you know, that's not for everyone. And it's probably safer for me that I don't have access to that anymore.
Right. Hey, lean forward a little bit. You're being shadowed just a touch.
But I like the shadows.
Yeah, you do. So Steven was kind of giving me some grief, right? We first started doing this. He's like, I don't know if I'm cool with being on camera. You're doing great, man. You're doing great. I know you're normally not an on-camera guy, not at least in person.
It's just an extra part of my brain that has to engage, right? If it's just audio, then I don't have to worry what I look like or what my body language is, and it gets to be more about that vocal performance, right? But you've been
what
a
am I
stage,
supposed to be doing with my hands?
right? You've been a stage musician though, so you have a whole different perspective on that. You've been having to worry about body language and performance at the same time for a long time.
Sure.
I've done plenty as an actor and as a little as a stand-up comic, and I'm still terrible about body language on camera. I'm not paying any attention at all to what I'm doing right now.
Right, and both of us could probably stand to improve by paying attention to that sort of thing.
Yeah,
You know.
a lot.
You know, and that's the whole thing. We're all on a journey. We're all growing. So let's go on to section 2, our news and notes, or as I call it, the Do You Give a Bleep? So this is a set of news stories that Carissa has compiled. It's very popular. We're hoping to get a lot of searches on YouTube from these because I'm going to try to break them down.
I just want to note that Don gave us this really bleeping annoying thing where we can't curse on this show, and he wants us to say bleep instead.
Right.
And it's really quite the pain in the bleep. It's pretty bleeping frustrating.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's much easier for me to just not curse.
Yeah.
And besides which, I really don't want to give this mother bleeper the satisfaction.
So, what do we got?
All right, first up is Brangelina.
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 Now,
This is news from like 15 years ago, isn't it?
what do you mean?
No.
What's going on?
Sadly, I actually know more than you do about this topic.
So
They are-
clue
Which is
Greg in. You fill it in.
terrifying to me that I know more than anyone on the subject of anything related to celebrity gossip.
Okay.
But
Did one kill the other?
that? I feel like you would have heard about that. I think
probably
that
would've.
actually would have
That
filtered
would've
down.
been. Yeah.
But no, they are getting a divorce,
Okay.
It's a little messy.
and apparently Brad Pitt, there's some accusation from her to him of child abuse. But we don't yet know if that's a legitimate thing or if this is the paparazzi blowing things out of proportion. And again, stake through my heart that I even know enough to relate that information.
So, yeah. So that has there been any? You went and you looked these up before we did this. Did you look? Did you see any
The
latest news?
The latest news is that she has said that she will not testify against him if any sort of child abuse charges come to trial.
So she was the one who made the initial accusation, which would then make it come to trial, but then she refuses to testify against him.
She did not make the accusation.
Who did?
Apparently somebody reported something to the FBI, and so they're the ones investigating that. She just filed for divorce.
Man, that's gotta be a thing for celebrities. Like everybody I know with kids, they're always worried about CPS. I'm worried about this. I gotta do things socially acceptable with my child, even though I don't necessarily agree that the rules are reasonable. For example, free range parenting, and then all of a sudden, they're worried about CPS showing up at their doors. But these ultra mega international celebrities, they gotta worry about the FBI showing up at their door because maybe he swatted the kid on the butt for doing something wrong.
Right, and just from I have previously had respect for both of these people.
Right.
I like both of these actors, and they've done things outside of their acting profession that I have approved of. So my initial bias reaction is to be in Brad Pitt's favor, not against Angelina Jolie, just like,
Right.
I don't want this to be true. Knowing that this is coming from random source makes me,
Hesitant.
far more easily to, if it was an accusation from Jolie, then it'd be like, oh, Brad, how could you? Because it'd be hard to dismiss her saying it.
Right.
But random person reporting it, we need way more evidence before we can put any stock in that.
I agree. Now that camera's probably jiggling because Regal Cat is rubbing her face all over it. If she shows up after this section, we'll have you pick her up on camera and everybody can see how cute the friggin' kitty is. All right, what's next? So I think the general did you have any thoughts on it?
I don't give a bleep.
I don't give a bleep either.
I don't either.
Yeah. Do you give a bleep?
Generally, I don't. It's only the fact that I have some modicum of respect for their non-actor endeavors
Right.
that makes it a story that crossed my radar in the first place.
Right.
And,
Because it's what's his name from Fight Club.
right, and we've had some people that have been long respected revealed to be monsters here recently.
Yeah,
And I'm
I don't really
specifically
want to talk about
thinking-
Cosby.
Right. I mean, I don't want to get there either, but him and, Jared from Subway were two, like that. Both of those hurt for me personally anyway. So,
Really?
so I didn't want, I just don't want any more celebrities that I have any respect for to go down in the flames of a justified scandal.
That's true, and maybe we put too much stock in our celebrities, and we
Definitely.
assume they're good people because they're famous. Where if you're poor and you get pulled over by the police officer, they assume you're not good because you're not famous. Right? Could be that.
Well, I think
Who
that we
knows?
unquestionably obsess too much about celebrities.
Sure.
But at the same time, we have to acknowledge the reality that celebrities do function as a perverse role model. And I would like there to be at least a few people that you can point to and say, hey, this is someone I'd actually like my children to emulate if they're going to be emulating anyone.
Right.
So I'd like there to at least be a few bastions. And you always have to grade it. It's in degrees, right? Like
Sure.
No one is pure.
Right.
But I also think no one is completely evil either. So you always have to make a value judgment somewhere along the way.
Sure. And so I think it goes without saying at this point, if you have thoughts, if you give a bleep, if you really give a bleep, go ahead and leave a comment about why we should give a bleep. And I'll try to read the post. I don't know. And maybe we'll talk about it next week if there's more news. And then we'll bring up the comments. Best comments we'll bring up. I'll learn how to do Keynote, and then we can actually do this right. Okay, what's the next one?
Next one, Grumpy Cat on Broadway.
Oh, I love Grumpy Cat. Grumpy Cat's the best. I think actually on this topic of celebrity, I think cats make the best celebrities because they are inherently without fault.
They very rarely molest children.
Right. Right. So they make
occasionally tackle children, and it's always hilarious.
It's
Yes.
always hilarious.
But to Grumpy Cat on Broadway, I can only ask how.
Yeah. What's going on?
They
Why is
apparent-
Grumpy Cat on Broadway?
They apparently brought Grumpy Cat up on stage during a performance of Cats on Friday.
Of course they did.
Do you know what Grumpy Cat's real name is?
I do not.
It's tartar sauce.
Oh yeah, I've heard that before.
It's tartar sauce. I forget. Grumpy Cat has a sister or brother. There's another cat that's also kind of derpy looking, and that cat has an equally hilarious name. All right. So, do we care that Grumpy Cat's up on Broadway? Do we give a bleep?
I don't.
I don't give a bleep.
I feel like Cats being back on Broadway is more notable than Grumpy Cat being brought up for it.
It's a nice press stunt. It's a nice stunt to get a little bit of press coverage without having to buy ads.
I'm aware of Cats, but I've never seen Cats.
Really?
No.
It's pretty good. I mean,
Yeah.
it's pop Broadway, right? Like Broadway suffers from the same problem that films suffer from, that music suffers from, and that there's a lot of really good stuff that's so ultra popular that it's almost damaging that it's so popular. That if it was slightly more obscure, it'd be more respected. And in many ways, what's his name? Andrew Lloyd Webber, he gets that because He did some really good stuff. He did Jesus Christ Superstar, which is a great show.
And Phantom of the Opera, which is one of the all-time greats. I don't know, Cats came at a somewhat unfortunate time in the evolution of theater, because if Cats had come like 5 years later, it would have been a very different production. Cats was the last of a genre that's almost disappeared that I would call musical review, where the whole show is basically just a set of musical dance numbers fastened together, and there is a very loose story that's kind of sort of being told over the course of it.
Sure, and Mr. Mistopheles is a super cool character.
Right, and each song has their own little cat character they introduce, and there's some vague stitched together stuff about one of them being chosen to go up to some, heaven allegory, but it's not really a story.
Right.
In the way that Phantom of the Opera is a story being told through music.
It's true. Spoilers. Should I
Yeah.
put spoiler? I'm not. I am not going to the trouble to put spoiler alerts on these videos. I'm sorry, guys. These videos, we're gonna...
Spoilers about Cats or Phantom of the Opera, I think at
Yeah.
this point,
Yeah.
if you didn't want to get it spoiled, you really should have watched.
That's true. But there's a lot of kids, like the average YouTube viewer is actually much younger than we are. So they might not necessarily be aware of it, but then with the revival, it's like, oh, okay, now I'm aware of it.
I suppose, but at some point you're just allowed.
God help us
You're
when
just
Ralph comes
allowed
back.
to talk about how Romeo and Juliet killed themselves. At some point you can't go. Well, I don't want to say too much about the ending for the people who haven't seen Romeo and Juliet yet.
Yeah.
If you've only seen Romeo and Juliet and haven't read the book, then you
The
need
play?
to be. Read the play.
Okay.
You get so much more out of it when you read it than when you watch it.
Hold on, let's explore this. This is pretty good. Book, play, there's not a difference? Is it just
Romeo and Juliet?
Is it just
There's-
semantics?
It was an original play by Shakespeare, wasn't
Yes.
it?
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
William Shakespeare. The fact that you have to, the fact that
No,
you're
but I
asking
mean,
that's
it
hilarious.
wasn't based on something.
No.
It was, okay.
No, I
So
mean, I think,
reading the play versus watching the play.
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, I guess I could see that, because with Shakespeare's writing, you tend to need to read everything 4 times to go, huh? Wait, what? What does that even mean?
But when I was in high
people-
school, they did a nice
when
thing.
people rattle off the dialogue, it can be hard to keep up.
But there's
And
an
yet
interesting
not.
point, though, where reading the play as the source is kind of invalid in a way, in the same way that reading the screenplay of a movie. Have you seen the movie because you read the screenplay? I would argue you haven't. So I can't really rationalize how you could translate that to, I have to say, if you haven't actually seen Shakespeare performed as a play, you haven't actually experienced it. Just reading it doesn't count in the same way that reading a screenplay doesn't count as seeing a movie.
I would agree with that. And high school productions don't do it justice. It really needs to be seasoned actors.
Yeah, and it really depends on the quality of actors, because I've seen some really, really bad Shakespeare performances where they completely missed the whole point of Shakespeare's writing.
And that happens even in the comedies. That happens a lot because it's really easy to misinterpret those characters and not understand the cultural context.
And misinterpret the words and what you should be feeling and doing during those words, and yeah.
And let's face
I don't know,
it
'cause when
takes
you
a good
take-
actor just to say the dialogue out loud and not sound like an idiot, because it's really hard cadence and stuff that goes with it.
Yeah, but it's iambic pentameter.
It's hard to know how much the actors today are performing Shakespeare, how similarly they're doing it to the people who originally performed Shakespeare.
That's a
when
valid
you're reading a script for Shakespeare, you're reading it as Shakespeare wrote it. So you might be getting closer to actual Shakespeare than you are to a version of Shakespeare that a group of actors and theater people have put together today. They're not necessarily performing Shakespeare. They're just doing their version of this.
Right.
So I could see you could craft an argument there for how, if you're reading the script, you're getting a more pure version of Shakespeare than you are by watching a group of actors perform it today.
I think a lot of PhDs would disagree with you.
It's probably true.
Right, because you got to also remember the historical context. So what happens
there
is
are
somebody
also-
writing, somebody writing about the version of the play they saw will provide context into how it was performed, and so we can have an understanding historically
Right.
of how it was.
Right, and plenty of people who are performing Shakespeare are doing their research to try and perform it exactly as it was performed back then. But plenty are also not.
Yeah, Kenneth Branagh.
he was fine.
He's great. I love Kenneth Branagh.
I liked.
He
I don't know.
localized.
I'm no Shakespeare
I would make the
scholar.
argument that it depends on which.
Which
performance.
Kenneth Branagh? Which performance?
Performance.
He's
of
like the
his.
Nick Cage of Shakespeare.
I'm no
Yeah.
Shakespeare scholar, but the film version of Hamlet that he did was pretty good.
It's really good.
I am just forever saddened that Hollywood has failed to recognize the potential for a truly epic, gut-wrenching, like, battle movie that is happening in Julius Caesar. Because
Yeah.
all anyone remembers from Julius Caesar is the Et tu, Brute bit. And
Right.
that's like nothing. That's such a small part of that story. Like, there is a scene in that play where a woman takes a hot coal and shoves it down her own throat to commit suicide. And no filmmaker has yet committed this to film, and that is a tragedy.
It is a tragedy. Greg, let's fix that. Let's fix it. If you want to see Greg make Julius Caesar, we can start a crowdfunding. Leave a comment below and like the video, and we'll get that going. All right, what's next?
So for the record, I think Greg has much better original screenplays that should be funded before an adaptation of Julius
Right,
Caesar.
Okay.
right. I write much better original work than Shakespeare.
I'm not sure we're legally allowed to say that.
Yeah, you are. It's fine.
Well, no one is legally required to believe it. That's all that matters.
That's right.
Okay.
Quit futzing with that bottle. You know it's being picked up on all the mics, right? We're gonna have to fix that with the bottles. The bottles are not cool. Sorry. What's next?
Hugh Hefner is not dead. Apparently Friday it was reported that paramedics rushed to the Playboy Mansion to try to revive him, and
Are
that
you
he
sure
was dead. And no, he posted a picture Friday night with his wife saying, "No, I'm not dead."
Are you sure he didn't just call 911 after having an erection for more than 4 hours?
I didn't even hear about the death hoax, but I think we've reached a point where, like, the day that you know you're a celebrity today is the day someone reports you're dead when you're not.
Breaking news.
Like, that's when you become famous.
Yeah.
It's once someone says, "This guy's dead," and people care.
Though I think we reached peak Hugh Hefner when he was played by Stan Lee in a Marvel film.
I don't.
Which
remember
film?
that either.
I want to say it was the first Iron Man. There's a scene where there's like a big red carpet gala, and Tony Stark walks by and pats Hugh Hefner on the shoulder, and he says, "Hey, Hef, how you doing?" and walks on by, and Hef turns around, and it's actually Stan Lee dressed as Hugh Hefner.
That's
and
funny.
it's kind of amazing.
That's funny. See, Steven knows about these things. I don't.
Yeah.
But I'm not 100% sure it's Iron Man 1. It could be one of the other Iron Men. So, hopefully you won't get angry Marvel geeks correcting me in your feed, which is entirely possible.
Hey, listen, I'm a DC guy, so
I am sorry.
see, so hate me for being a DC guy. Don't hate him.
Oh, I don't hate you for being the DC guy. I feel sorry for you because of the very subpar movies you've had to suffer through for decades while Marvel is just mercilessly kicking DC's ass.
I would argue that they're all just kind of in that category of mediocre. So,
Well, I mean, if we're judging everything on the scale of Citizen Kane, yeah, I can't intellectually disagree with that.
yeah, they've got to compete with the entire history of film.
But if you're judging it on the scale of how well does it live up to its own potential as dictated by the source material, Marvel's, it's not even close.
I know. We got a good there's been a couple of good Batman movies.
Yeah.
And there's been a couple of good Supermans.
And there were a couple of good scenes in all of the movies
Sure.
they put out. You know, I've enjoyed bits and pieces of each one.
Sure.
But
I've lost my entire train. What was our topic?
Hugh Hefner's not dead.
Oh, do we give a bleep that Hugh Hefner's not dead?
Playboy was a very important institution to my childhood.
It is how I figured out I was straight.
Contributed. So when news of his actual death hits, I might shed an ironic tear, but for the most part, I don't really give a bleep.
I don't really give a bleep. He's got enough money. He doesn't need my adoration.
Okay.
What's next?
Ryan Dunn's Twitter. Apparently, Ryan Dunn of Jackass fame is tweeting from beyond the grave.
I was about to say, didn't he die?
He died in a car crash in 2011.
Yeah.
Apparently, lately, his Twitter has been active again, and he has been talking about meeting Tupac and Harambe.
Hashtag dicks out for Harambe, everybody.
Oh.
I'll drink to that one.
And this is a story that a publication like reprinted?
Yes, apparently his family never inactivated his Twitter account,
And somebody hacked it.
and somebody hacked it because the family says they're not doing it.
Or maybe it's really Ryan Dunn.
Maybe.
And maybe he's
That's-
really chilling with Harambe.
One hypothesis.
Maybe the Twitter technology is just that good.
Here's hoping.
But this does definitely feel
Like-
like a moderator moment. Like Twitter needs to step up.
Ah, that's a good point. Should Twitter step up?
I don't know. I still think it's funny that, like, you're in heaven and you can meet, like, anyone who has ever died, and you can hang out with them, and he picks an ape. Like, really?
But
that's
it's Harambe. It's not just any ape. It's Harambe. I actually don't understand. I think I kind of understand the meme. I'll admit, I don't entirely understand the culture of internet memes and how it keeps going like this. Like, how most memes die off pretty quickly, but Grumpy Cat, Harambe, these really touch on the lexicon of America.
Yeah, there's no science behind which memes do, but there is science that just says
It's a thing.
that X number of memes are going to stick and permeate, usually for nonsensical reasons, if you can even trace them.
Right. And then we know that, you know, in 100 years, people will be looking back the way we look back at the Civil War and be like, my dearest Annette, or brace yourselves. It's a very different kind of thing.
That's a funny thought, just to be like, well, in ancient America, there was a very popular meme.
Wow.
On that note,
Like, someday someone's gonna say that.
But you know what's going to happen. You know what's going to happen.
on that note, what's next?
Our final story is Gwyneth Paltrow turns 44.
Really?
Uh-huh. And she was photographed on a beach in Mexico in a bikini.
How's topless?
No,
Oh.
In a bikini.
in a bikini.
Well, I mean, bikini can mean many different things, right? I was just curious.
It was very definitely a two-piece bathing suit.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is the idea behind this story that she looks really good for 44? Or is it like, oh God, she aged, shame on her?
No.
Like, what?
I'm not entirely sure what the aim behind the story was, to be honest with you.
Well, so happy birthday, Gwyneth Paltrow. Was it recently her birthday?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah. So happy birthday, Gwyneth Paltrow.
Happy birthday.
Do we give a bleep?
No.
That she's
No.
44? No.
Oh, that was a little catty. Did you hear her? She was very. No, I don't care about Gwyneth Paltrow. I
Nope.
definitely don't care about Gwyneth Paltrow and her bikini. Are you a little? I mean, you look great in a bikini.
Oh, it has nothing to do with her in bikini. I've just never been a fan of Gwyneth Paltrow.
Okay.
Well, it's
trying to
possible
think
that
of-
I have a crush on Pepper Potts, but I don't care about Gwyneth Paltrow.
There we go. All right, that was the last of the news. And
That was
do you
the
give a
last
bleep?
of the news.
The TMDs, Tids and Bits, the news and notes. All right, number 3.
I'm gonna get this can opening right up next to the mic.
No,
Just
pull it
nice
away.
and juicy
It's going to be
for you.
loud. Your mic's already especially hot. Oh yeah, that already clipped. So, all
For the
right.
record, my drinking of any particular beverage upon this podcast is not an endorsement of said beverage.
Right, and we're all being very responsible about it. We're all not getting in our cars as soon as we're done with this. If you're going to make the decision to have an adult beverage, don't be an idiot about it. So, number 3 is, what the bleep have you done for the label? So, I guess I should start.
You are the label.
I am the label, aren't I? But we're really a family. This is really the way I look at the label. Is I'm the label in that somebody has to be the label, but ultimately, like, the whole idea behind the label is I want to make sure that all of my friends and everybody who's out there doing good work, I want to help them find an audience, right? And the only way we can do that is to build an audience. And so there's a little bit of cross-pollination that has to go on. So, for example, like, what does a podcast have to do with the record label? Well, hopefully somebody watches this and thinks we're funny. Probably not, but, you know. So...
I'm not sure we've been that funny so far.
Oh, we'll let the internet decide. Thumbs up if we're funny, thumbs down if we're not.
I think we have opinions, and we have stated them.
Yeah, that's true, right? And nothing too controversial, I don't think. Though I think the Christian right's going to come after you for being atheist.
Distressingly not nearly controversial.
Right. So with this section, though...
By the way, Christian right, you can come after me too. I might not be as vocal, but hey, right here.
So this... So you guys... So obviously the standards for you are much lower, right? You're... I consider you part of the family. Greg, you're not actually on the label, though we're just interlinked forever.
I don't know. Was the Thunderwake album put out on the label?
Well, yeah, because it used to be Left Nut Records, and now it's Get Off My Lawn Records.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
The name is so conducive to a family environment.
It's really a family-friendly show, right? It's Get Off My Lawn. The way I look at it is it's this suburban angst that happens even when you're in your middle. You know, even as I've crossed that, like, I'm 15 and I hate the world, and now I'm like, I'm 33 and I still kind of hate the world. And
well, I hate the world, but I hate it for very different reasons than I did from when I was 15.
Yeah, so the angst never goes away, but it certainly subdues a little bit, and that's why not all of our music all the music on the label is super heavy and loud, and you know, we're grown-ups now, so let's listen to some good stuff and yell at some kids to get off our lawns, because damn it, it's my lawn. And I don't want to hear that. I don't want to see that kid spitting on the lawn.
Says the man in the disco hoodie.
Yeah, okay. So let's start with you. Greg, have you done anything for the label this week?
This week?
Yeah.
No, I don't think I have. How long ago did we shoot that last Freeform Friday?
Yeah, I guess that was about a week and a couple of days. So
I was running cameras on one of those shows for the YouTube channel.
Right.
But, other than that, this week for the label, I don't think I've done anything.
Okay. So how about share? If you see the stuff, just share it. Yeah, I know you share Steven's stuff, so that's something you've done for the label. And we've gone off and we've shared your book. Do you have your book? Did we bring that upstairs?
Yeah, I got 2 books here.
You got 2 books? Yeah, that's the book, right, that we're trying to help him sell copies of. It's Donald Trump and the Hairpiece of Evil. It's available on... that's totally blank.
There's no way that that's going to be seen on camera.
Donald Trump and the Hairpiece of Evil. We'll put a link in the description.
It is really hard to overstate how funny this book is. It is like... I'm a huge politics junkie. Don explicitly forbid me from discussing politics on this podcast.
I just don't want death threats.
He knows how deep that rabbit hole goes. And this is the perfect book if you are a political junkie or if you hate everything about politics. Either way, this is the book for you. Like, it is so funny and can't recommend it enough.
Yeah, because it's basically you got really hip to all of the crazy stuff that was going on. And so you just started referencing all of it, but ultimately you're not that political.
In a ridiculous sci-fi comedy satire kind of way.
Right.
I mean, none of it's played very real. It's all about this evil hairpiece-looking creature that crawls out of a swamp and latches onto Trump's brain and then starts piloting him and sending him on this quest for attention and negative energy. That starts in pop culture and reality TV and stuff and translates from there into politics, which is basically reality TV, and it's all portrayed there as America's next top president.
Yep.
So, it's
funny. It's funny.
bizarre. It's bizarre. It's funny. It's not really... I mean... It does make fun of Trump a lot. It also makes fun of Hillary and Ted Cruz and everybody a lot. It's got jokes in there attacking libertarians. It's pretty much a take no prisoners kind of thing.
All right,
And,
that's enough.
Yeah. Okay.
Because you didn't do anything for the label this week. Stephen, what
I'm
have you...
on the podcast.
Yes, you are. There you go. Stephen, what have you done for the label this week?
Well, I also participated in the shooting of your last Freeform Friday, which
Right.
was an awesome show and an excellent location. I've also been retweeting some of your stuff
Yep.
through my Reverend Walker account.
I saw that.
And, you know, just by pushing my podcast, I'm also pushing your lovely facility here. So I'm doing whatever I can in that regard.
Well, I don't really care about pushing the facility. It's a nice room full of stuff, right? But the reality is I'm not a for-hire studio. So if somebody says, yeah, I'll pay you to record, I'm going, what do you sound like? And then don't pay me, I'm going to keep a cut, I'll release it. I figured out a long time ago I'd be much happier doing that. So my whole idea is try to help everybody who doesn't have the means or the facilities to do it themselves. Like, you could do your podcast at home, but the bird.
Right. Well, I listen to a ton of podcasts. I
Right.
absorb a ridiculous amount of podcast content from all across the quality spectrum, and I have a very good ear for what sounds professional and what doesn't.
Sure.
And so when I said about doing my own podcast, it was like I don't believe I can get the sound I want at home. I need a man like yourself who actually has the right equipment.
Sure.
And it's been an excellent deal for me because, as you can imagine, a podcast about science advocacy is not exactly raking in the big bucks. Like,
Yeah.
that's something I'm doing as a public service, and that I hope people can glean actual benefit from, but it's not about money on any level. So your offer of this place and my video services to you could not be more appreciated.
Yeah, well, I like what you do. I don't always agree with it, but I like what you do. And you do a good job with them. We wrote, Greg, you were here when I wrote the theme song for that.
Right.
And I remember it blew you away because it was just like, it took me, 10 minutes?
That was an amazing thing because you were like, I want to write a little intro piece of music, and I had always intended there to be some kind of intro music, but I was imagining just snatching something that already existed somewhere. But right in front of my face, you just sort of brought this thing out of the ether, and it was lovely.
Oh,
And,
sure.
and now I can't imagine it without it. You know, a few episodes in, and it just feels like a necessary part of the fabric.
Sure.
I've seen Don do that so many times with so many different stuff that we worked on, but I mean, I think the first one was the Jesse Thunderwake video that had that da 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 da,
Yep.
and it was deliberately bad.
Yep.
But the idea was it was like poorly put together, but would still be catchy and get stuck in your head after you heard it, and it was like, that was awesome, and you were like, no, it wasn't. It really wasn't.
Yeah, I keep telling Steven I want another crack at the theme song for his, but at this point we should probably let it be. What episode are you on?
Well, I'm about to be recording episode 5.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's there. How about you? What have you done for the studio this week? Or the label?
The label?
Yeah.
Well, that we had that meeting with an artist last weekend.
Oh, we had the conversation. We can announce. So we had
Okay.
So yeah, we met with MC Overlord. We're going to be working on the MC Overlord record.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be a lot of fun. Do you guys know who MC Overlord is? This is why we're doing this. MC Overlord is one of the founding members of the Austin hip-hop scene. He's really, really good. His career's not where it used to be in the heyday of recorded music, but artistically he's in an even better place. I'm really looking forward to doing that. We're going to do a live band. I'll play bass on it.
Mm-hmm.
What else?
So I'm in the process of putting the contract together for that.
Thank you.
And there was various business research conducted.
Sure. We're always doing business research.
Yes.
It's a never-ending process. Like, I don't do the label because I like it. You know, I do the label because it's... When you're releasing your own stuff, you're functionally a label. And then, now that I know how to do it, and I kind of have a feel for it, it's like, well, now I can help others. Where before I used to try to charge per hour, and it very quickly, projects, when you do it that way, they become fiscally irresponsible. So I just try to make sure to help everybody come together and make some good stuff. All right, what have I done for the label this week? Well, we released two videos on the Jazz Destroyers website. Or not the website. I should build a website. That'll be on the next section. So we released a couple videos on the Jazz Destroyers YouTube channel. I've edited the last. I'm about halfway mixed on the last Freeform Friday session of the year. So we recorded those at Kenny Dorm's backyard, which is a great venue. And on those videos, we're going to put a link to donate. So if you got a little extra bread this holiday season, throw it their way. It's tax deductible and all that. What else have I done for the label this week? I started this podcast.
Yes.
I started this podcast, right? We're starting a YouTube channel, and we're gonna put this out. We're gonna see how it goes. So we'll see.
Now, even though it's no mystery to me, just knowing you, why your label is called "Get Off My Lawn."
Oh yeah.
But I am a little curious as to the moment where it came into being.
Oh yeah. So I was sitting in my chair in my bedroom, which is in the front of the house. I have one of those horrible houses where the bedroom faces the street, so, I mean, if you really want to give everybody a show, you can. But, I was sitting in my chair, and I heard a commotion outside. And I look out the window, down from the second story down to the sidewalk, and there's 3 teenagers chit-chatting. And I kind of notice them chit-chatting, and then the one turns and he spits on my lawn. Spits into the grass. And I don't know what happened, but at that moment I almost went downstairs and screamed at him. It was like, get off my lawn, what are you doing? Get the hell off my lawn. Now, sidewalk's public property, technically they can hang out on the sidewalk, but don't spit on my lawn. Get off my lawn. I don't even care about the lawn itself that much, it's just, as I've become older, I've become curmudgeonly, so it fits.
I just love there was an actual incident that completely fits the cliche of the phrase.
Yeah. Yeah, it was I was having a Clint Eastwood moment, that's for sure. Awesome. All right. So section 4, label goals. Let's talk about what we're working on for the label. So I want to talk about it in 3 ways. I want to talk about it in terms of this week, this month, this year. If I think much bigger than that, it's going to drive me crazy, right? So when I say this year, I mean 2017.
I don't even know where I'm going to be sleeping tomorrow. What are you talking about?
Oh, you know exactly where you're sleeping tomorrow, unless you meet a nice lady.
Well, I try not to rule out anything.
Okay. Well, so in the next week, we're going to release another Freeform Fridays video, right? You're recording your Escape from Ignorance today. Are you going to get that out this week?
That'll be out tomorrow.
So that'll be out tomorrow. Okay. So that's another thing to find, and this video will probably get posted as an individual clip later, so make sure I have a link to it, and I'll put it in the description. Yeah, and then what else are we doing? We're going to finish up the contract for the MC Overlord. We're going to look at that. I'm going to modify it a bit. We've got the other one with Cody. I don't even know what they're calling that project, but it's going to be really interesting.
I haven't gotten any terms for that yet.
Yeah, we're going to have to put together the terms for that.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's what we're working on this week. That, and I still got to edit more Freeform Fridays. Doing a weekly video upload is just brutal. And I do them with multicam. You guys saw, how many cameras did we run on that last session?
5?
6.
Maybe 6. No, 6, yeah, counting the...
Because it was the 3 Sonys, the GoPro, that's 4, and then your 2 DSLRs. And that'll be so fun. Didn't you shoot in the wrong frame rate at one point?
Yeah, for maybe like half the show.
Great.
So that'll be some fun little editing for you.
I'm excited for that though, because I felt like that was really good coverage. Like it was a really nice stage, and it was a stage that merited the 6 camera setup. So I'm hoping that cuts together really well.
Right, and I've come off of the I want to slip my wrists over my own performance. How did it sound to you guys?
Sounded great.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good sound mix. Like you guys felt like you were on top of it.
Well, we're good at faking it. Okay. So now over the next month, what are the goals for the next month? We really need to get a website put together. That should be a month.
Website, get all the rest of the business stuff in place.
Yeah. All right. And then and we'll see what's coming up after that. I can't think of anything else that's midterm goal like that. And then for the next year, for 2017, I've got some interesting plans. We've got this podcast we've just started today. So we're going to continue this through, and this will be a daily upload. But
A daily upload.
it's a daily upload, but it's a weekly recording. So we're going to record these once a week. If you guys can't make it, you can't make it, but you're always invited. It's going to be a weekly recording. And I'm going to record and release the whole thing on as soon as it's ready, just the whole podcast, and then also do daily clips. So each of these sections, that's why we do 7 sections. So there's 1 section for each day. So there's that, and then we're also going to start the Making of Freeform Fridays on the Jazz Destroyers channel. If you guys are familiar, because we all work on it, but for anybody who isn't familiar, just search hashtag Freeform Fridays, and you'll get the videos on the Jazz Destroyers channel, because that's the hashtag we use for it. And there's a lot of gear. Like, even looking in the cameras, I'm sure you're like, somebody out in YouTube's like, oh man, Don's got a lot of stuff, and I do. And so I think it'll be interesting to walk everybody through exactly how it's made and what's used, especially what's used, because that'll be good for YouTube search. People are really interested in which guitar I'm using, for example. Or they're not, but they're searching for that guitar. And so that's the idea. So, yeah, so that's about those are the 1-year goals. That, and I mean, I have metrics goals I'd like to see, right? Like, I'd like to at least be at 100 subscribers on the label channel. I'd like to get the label up to a couple hundred likes on Facebook if I can, that sort of thing. But I'm not setting those in stone because it'll just drive me crazy. All right, what's next? Shoutouts. So let's go around the room. I want you to plug your own stuff. Right, because our plugs their own thing? Nope. So plug your own stuff, but then I also want at least 3 things that aren't on the label that you're interested in right now that you'd like to give a shout out to.
Oh, man. 3 things that we're interested in right now?
Yeah, like YouTube channels you're watching, Twitter feeds you're following, movies you've seen that are good, that sort of thing.
So divorced from so much of this stuff right now.
All right, we're gonna you think about it. We'll go to Steven first because I know Steven can do this.
Well, first off, with the plug, I have to put out my own podcast, Escape from Ignorance. We've
Right.
already talked about it quite a bit, but you can find it on iTunes or Stitcher. You can also go online at escapefromignorance.com or on Facebook, or follow me on Twitter at the Irreverend W. As far as stuff I'm into, I have to give a shout out to Adam Ruins Everything. It is this spectacular show that is criminally underwatched, in which this very sweet geeky guy basically lays out how science destroys a huge number of our popular myths. He just did an episode about immigration that drops so many facts on you that just utterly contradicts the popular narratives about information coming from both sides of the political aisle, that every American owes it to themselves to watch this. Because if you're not talking about the subject of immigration without considering the facts that Adam presents, then nothing you are saying means anything. It was pretty astonishing.
Awesome. What else do you like?
There's a book that I just finished, and now this is extremely wonky. It's only for people that have a very serious interest in history, but it's called Proving History. It's by an author named Richard Carrier, who's a very respected historian, particularly in the realm of Jesus studies. And this book is about how do we know with any certainty what happened thousands of years ago. Like today, like future historians will have so much of an easier time with documenting this era because everyone and their dog has a camera.
Yeah.
Like they'll obviously it's hard to pin things down 100%, but they'll still potentially have a dozen different angles on every major world event. Pretty much from this point going forward, if we don't blow ourselves back to the Dark Ages.
Which is entirely possible.
But, and young people may not understand this, there was a time before cameras, right? There was a time when you didn't have a way to document things in an indisputable way.
True.
How do we know? You know, and like a core question of the book is, why does the majority of historians believe that King Arthur was just a myth, but accept that Socrates was a real person? And when you dig into that, there's really hardcore evidence that establishes why those things are true. So if you've ever wondered, how do we know anything about people that have been dead for 1,000 years, this book will explain the method of that.
Well, the King Arthur thing, like, there was a king named Arthur, but whether or not he was, the myth evolved from that. But
Well,
there's a historical figure of King Arthur, isn't there?
There was a time when all of the disparate tribes of Britain came together and
Right.
formed a single nation. And that happened sometime between the 5th and 6th century. And there are various figures that could have been the king that did it all, or it could have been a variety of kings over a period. But when we talk about King Arthur, we imagine a very specific story with Uther Pendragon and the Sword and the Stone, and his son that turns against him, and the evil sorcerer, and all of that stuff.
And holy hand grenades.
Yeah, and Merlin, all of that, every single popular detail can be traced back to a book written in the year 1138.
Yep.
And that's 500 years after Arthur was supposed to have lived, and there's no corroborating evidence in that 500-year span between there. Nothing. And it's like, you have to conclude when you know that this was just some guy making it up. There might have been a real dude who actually united the Britons, but it's not the Arthur we know. He never really lived.
Well, I will let everybody leave a comment about whether or not they think King Arthur was real or not. And I think that's way better than the topic of religion. But, so leave a comment, let me know what you think. How about you? Do you have any plugs?
My plug.
Oh, it's Regal Cat.
It's Regal Cat.
Oh, show a Regal Cat that camera.
No.
Oh, she does not want to be on
you don't
camera.
wanna be- You don't want to be.
She's been sitting on your lap, and now she's like, I don't want to be on
like,
camera.
I don't want to be disturbed.
Okay, let her
Okay.
down. Let her down.
She's sitting so good.
On the plus side, she's on the Freeform Fridays.
She is.
The hashtag Regal Cat editions. She's in the back of it.
Have I been forgiven? Come here.
No, leave her on the floor. She's just gonna jump back down. So, what about plugs? What shout outs? What do you like?
Well, right now I'm really digging stellar astronomy.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And what is that? Is it a book, TV show?
It's the class I'm taking.
The class. Well, that is an excellent class.
It is an excellent class, as is organic chemistry.
As is organic chemistry at Austin Community College.
Yes.
I'm sure there's really good professors.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure they're woefully undercompensated for doing that work.
They get paid more than they do at UT.
Isn't that sad?
That's very sad.
Because UT costs a whole lot more.
Mm-hmm. It
Huh.
all goes to football.
What else? Any other plugs? Or shout-outs?
I'd like to give a shout out to Sprouts for making excellent gummy worms.
Sprouts, a regional... I think they're regional, aren't they?
No, I think they're national. Or semi-national, or...
They compete with Trader Joe's, Whole Foods.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It is... We're kind of having a renaissance in that organic... In the grocery store realm. When I was growing up, we had two. And you went to either ShopRite or A&P. And if they both sucked, they both sucked. And now there's all these grocery stores everywhere. That might just be Austin, though.
Maybe.
Let me know how many grocery stores you have near you in the comments. All right. So, plugs. What am I plugging? We got the Jazzersaurus stuff. We're doing Mozart's here coming up. Just go to the Facebook page. I'll put up all the dates. We play a lot of dates. We're doing Highball. We just picked Highball up on November 5th. I think it's the 5th. It's that Saturday.
Yes.
That's going to be our birthday bash. I'm turning 33. Tom's turning 48. Yeah, because we did that one show where Dale was 60, Tom turned 45, and I had turned 30.
Yep.
And, oh, look at that. If I let it sit long enough, that comes up. All right. So there's those. There's the records, obviously. You should totally check out the Bandcamp. You can listen to everything in its entirety for free. All right, put her down. She doesn't want any part of that. Leave Regal Cat alone.
Had to try.
She's not gonna... she'll either cooperate or she won't.
Most cats don't like to be picked up.
No, Pumpkin though. If Pumpkin comes in here and he gets picked up, he will be just the cutest thing you've ever seen. But he probably won't come in.
She's usually okay with being picked up.
Yeah. There's a couple shout-outs I want to give out, which are the End of the World Orchestra. My buddy Matt Butler, he played with us on the Freeform Fridays, that first one that came out, or the first one we recorded at Kenny Dorham's. That's really going to be an exciting, interesting project. I want to give a shout-out to my buddies in Atlas Mayor. Atlas Mayor is a really good Middle Eastern fusion band. Joshua Thompson, who's been in some of the videos, so you guys haven't worked on any of the videos he's been in, I don't think. But Greg knows Josh, because Josh was on Thunderwake. And I guess the third would be, I want to give a shout out to Jesse Thunderwake American Icon, which Greg directed and I produced. And it's available on YouTube for free. That's censored and has ads, or you can watch it on Amazon Prime. Can we do Prime now? No, we're not Prime yet.
No.
I thought we had gotten that worked out.
We gotta work out. They only do HD in Prime, which we didn't even shoot in HD,
That's true.
and it needs open captions, which we don't have.
If anybody wants to caption Jesse Thunderwake, we would really thoroughly appreciate it. It's funny. I'll put a link to it in the description. It's about as long as this podcast, though.
About 90 minutes.
About
I
90
think
minutes.
it's 97.
And the credits are too long, but we did something fun for the YouTube credits.
Yeah.
Awesome. And Greg, all right. So we've circled back around to you.
Right.
Now you understand what we're doing.
I already plugged Donald Trump and the Hairpiece of Evil pretty
Yes.
thoroughly there. So and you already plugged Jesse Thunderwake American Icon. So I might as well plug In Nightmares We're Alone. This was a book that I wrote before the Trump novel. This was written back, I finished it up in like October of last year for Halloween. It's sort of three interconnected horror stories that I started out just writing it as three novellas that had nothing to do with each other, and I was going to package them together as sort of a little trilogy of terror, and I came to start blending them together into this thing that I think they add up to something more than the sum of its parts, but you can judge that if you read it yourself. As far as plugging other stuff that I've been watching or doing or obsessed with lately, I really enjoyed the new Doug Stanhope special that was put up on CISO recently. I can't get the name of that special right now, but
we'll dredge up a link for the description.
yeah, that was that was just a very enjoyable comedy special that does sort of, if you know Doug Stanhope, kind of the typical stuff that he does, where it's extremely offensive and bothersome, but really tears apart like pieces of our social culture and stuff that a lot of comedians wouldn't touch. I'm gonna give a shout out to this isn't any kind of specific person or something, but lately I've been really obsessed with reading all of these like Reddit. They call it creepypasta. It's like the no sleep forum on Reddit where people just write these. I mean, in general, it's done as like people trying to write, people claiming that this is creepy stuff that really happened to them. I believe maybe 10% of them, but a lot of them make for really enjoyable reads. They're really fun, and I could see how it would be a fun creative process too. I might duck into that at some point in the future. And I'm gonna give a shout out to Double Dave's Pizza.
Really?
Double Dave's.
Yeah. They're right across the street from my house, which makes them extremely convenient, and they got a delicious buffet where they have incredible Philly cheesesteak calzone. So
I'm astonished that you don't look like me the way you eat. You know, I've been losing weight and
I've been gaining weight.
yeah, there we
We'll
go.
meet up somewhere in the middle there.
We'll meet up, and it'll just be a big pile of sad, fat man. All right. Next section. Broad topic title. So this one, every week we're gonna do a broad topic. I've got a list of like 5 prepped, but leave a comment if you'd like a broad topic to be covered. But this one is what is Freeform Fridays? Because the longer I do this, the more I realize nobody understands what I'm doing. They're thoroughly enjoying it, right? There's a lot of people that it's a small but appreciative audience, right? But almost nobody understands just what the parameters of the project are.
Some pretty serious work that goes into this stuff.
It is some serious work. It takes
serious equipment.
a ton of equipment, but really, like, I wanted to kind of give you guys an understanding, because I remember when Steven first came in and he recorded those Harp by Andrea ones with us, and we got done, and he's like, well, it'd be so much easier if you just played one song, and we could just capture, like, different angles of that one song. And I'm going, nope, that's not what the project is, right? And I know a whole lot of people don't even understand. I know almost nobody understands that we don't record them on Fridays. Friday nights are gig night for me. I'm usually out gigging in town, being paid to perform, and it's fun, and it doesn't pay great, which is why we're here on YouTube. But the reality is that what the whole project is we sit down and we make it up for about 7 minutes. And then we upload it. We commit to the upload. That's why the first one's called Commit to the Upload. I've lost 3 of them to technical issues, and I'm pissed off about those 3. It's basically the Jazz Destroyers unfiltered. I don't edit them in any way to improve the performance. I just simply capture it as it happens. I capture it with multiple cameras so that when I edit the angles, you can really see what's going on, but I don't edit the audio other than mixing the different microphones. I don't take bad notes out. So to me it's the most honest way I can do this, because left to my own devices, I'll just become paralyzed and go, oof, I don't know if that's up to my standards. That's one I hear a lot. It's not up to my standard. And the reality is that whenever you record, you're documenting yourself at a period of time. And you just have to be okay with, this is how I play right now. And if I'm not 100% happy with the way I play right now, which nobody ever is, I need to then continue to work on it. There's been illusions that somehow I'm hurting my future career. I'm not convinced, so I do it this way. Some guys, they'll spend a year and release 60 minutes of audio. And I release 60 minutes of audio every, 9 weeks?
We're at a change in times as far as putting content out there, because for a long time, everything that got released had to be polished, because you had to build yourself up to the point where you could get in with the people who had the power to release this stuff.
Sure.
And now we're at a point where everyone can broadcast to the entire world at any point. So more and more you're going to just have access, just by the nature of how things are, to the early works of people before they really got to where they were. You're going to see the next Steven Spielberg is going to have 4 hours of YouTube videos that might be terrible,
right?
But the guy's going to build, and people are still going to be able to look at that. I think that's just a difference in times that's coming up there.
I agree with that assessment. I also, if you look at somebody like Donald Glover, who we should have shouted him out. He's great, Childish Gambino. He was on Derek Comedy, and some of that stuff was hilarious, and some of it was like, whoa, we crossed the line of no longer funny, and they were trying it, and they were brave, and they were young, and I think he's artistically in a better place today, and if anything, it provides a context. The way I've always looked at it is, if you do something that you're not 100% happy with, do 10 more hours that you are happy with and drown out that thing you're unhappy with. Because the way Google search goes anymore, you're not going to... Somebody would really have to research you to find the stuff that you don't really want to be out there if you're actively promoting the material. And I get that. I hear it a lot. It's a very common thing with home recordists of like they get this paralysis of, oh, I got to do 80. I didn't quite get it on that take. I'm gonna do another take. And I've just gone the other way and I said, no takes. We're just gonna record it and put it up. And just have it be. Because in the 60s, that's how it went. Jazz musicians in the 60s, they would roll into a studio, hit record. Maybe they'd lose a couple of the false starts, but basically, John Coltrane playing Giant Steps was the way they played it in the studio at that moment. They didn't do a bunch of tries at it and then start over. There's like one alternate take that Columbia's released. I don't know how many takes they did, but it's not a lot.
I think a huge problem that you're facing is that you don't appreciate the fact that nobody is able to bring this context with them.
Yeah.
Jazz, the word jazz is just another genre label to 95% of the people that are churning through content on YouTube.
That's true.
The word jazz does not mean, in common parlance, improvisation. And that's where its origin is. But the music that you are playing tribute to, the style that you're emulating, is a style from the pre-digital era.
Sure. Well, yeah.
And in the digital era, how most people, especially people below our generation, right, like people half our age and below,
yeah,
they perceive music as something that's constructed in a software program.
Sure.
And so if you are not advertising what you do in a way that specifically highlights the improvisational nature of it, and in a way that gives this rich history along with it.
Sure.
Because you went on, a fairly lengthy explanation, and anybody would understand it at the end of that.
Yeah. Well, that's why we're doing the podcast, is to explain that and provide that context. Let me ask you this, and let me ask it of the audience, right? Like, leave a comment. If you listen to because the people are astonished to hear that that's a complete, that's a continuous complete take live.
Right.
Even when it's recorded in my living room, because they just don't fathom that musicians can play that well.
Well, I mean, if your thing was titled Freeform Fridays, live and improvised,
yeah,
that one change alone would, I think, dramatically alter people's perception of what you're doing, because then right there in the title,
sure,
the thing that takes 5 seconds to read and absorb, people understand, oh, they're doing something that's specifically different from the heavily processed, rehearsed, constructed style that everyone else is doing. But they have to actually engage with you and dig in before they get the history. But they're not going to dig in until they get the history. So you kind of set up a catch-22 by not making the live and improvised thing much more aggressively in the face of the way you promote it.
I understand where you're coming from, though. That comes back to my whole thing about qualifiers. I hate qualifiers. You might not be surprised, but most guys that start recording themselves, they say, hey, would you like to hear this thing I recorded? Of course, yeah, I would love to hear the thing you recorded. And then they play it for me, and before they play it for me, they start saying, well, I haven't been doing it that long, and I'm not very good, and I'm going, enough with the qualifiers, just play it, let me hear it. It'll become obvious instantly, to me at least, whether or not you've been doing this a long time, or if the problems I'm hearing are technical or artistic.
Right, but that's you assigning your own knowledge to the audience.
Sure.
Most people won't know that. Most people will click on it assuming that it's pre-recorded. And when they hear the kinds of delicious imperfections that come with live, and think it's pre-recorded, that can create a negative impression. Whereas if you know it's live, then the very thing that would have made you dismiss it if you thought it was meant to be locked down professional is the thing that will make you love it if you know that it's an accident in the moment.
Yet I've never gotten any that would be the first time I've heard that feedback.
It's not something people can articulate. It's not something they're aware of. People are not aware of how their primers and their expectations affect how they feel about things. They're not aware of the fact that this thing you watched that you hated, you could have loved if you had altered 2 or 3 things about what you expected from it. You're not, like, that's a fundamental glitch of the human brain that's well known in like psychological and neuroscience communities that has just not trickled down to public consciousness. So you can't expect people to have that self-awareness.
Okay.
They're going, if they know with the qualifier, hey, this is a live improvised show, this is just musicians pouring their fucking soul out on stage.
Now I can't monetize this video.
You will have to bleep one thing out.
No, I'm not bleeping it. We just won't monetize it. I'm not doing this for them. I've made very, very little money on YouTube ads. The one section not being monetized is fine.
You said shit about 3 or 4 times here.
Have I?
Yeah.
Screw it. Welcome to the jungle. Maybe this one. Well, I mean, ultimately the podcast is a big advertisement for all the stuff that we have going on with Get Off My Lawn Records.
Sure.
And the reality is, that's why we brought you in on the fold. That's why we're bringing in MC Overlord. It's not a label that's designed to release Don's music. It's a label that's designed to release good music. And the interesting thing with that is that's almost deliberate with Freeform Fridays. That I don't put those qualifiers and explain that. Because I would rather it try to stand up to all of the other content out there on its own merits without the qualifier. Because I would imagine that it's extremely obvious once you see a live drummer.
But again,
it's not
you would imagine, but that's not reality. You are, and I saw this all the time in art school. You are doing this thing where you're saying, my art is so obviously good, I should just be able to put it out there, and people should just be able to notice it. And you are right.
Okay.
But that's not the world we live in.
Sure.
The world we live in, the individual merit is not analyzed.
Sure.
That is not what makes people pay attention. So if your strategy is to get noticed based on merit, you're perpetually limiting your audience. And the reality is, if you're willing to embrace the few qualifiers that are real and accurate, that honestly reflect what you're doing, then you will actually reach the people that care. Because there's a gap between, like, the people that care have been taught by social media browsing habits that do not conform with your idealized version of how you want them to find your content. And that's the cold, hard reality that a lot of artists have to face, that I've had to face trying to promote my podcast. Nobody cares that I'm giving these very lucid, articulate, explanations of how science works. That's not no one's going to click on that. But they will click on, I'm here to challenge everything you believe in, and you will hate me when you're done. Now, that's not an accurate representation of what my podcast is, but that will get clicked on. And out of the 1,000 people that click on that, I will find the 5 guys that actually wanted what I was offering.
Sure.
But I had to submit to the fact that I have to let go of my idealized vision of how people look for stuff and figure out how people do look for stuff and then put a carrot in front of them. And I don't see you going through that process, and I think that's holding you back, because I know there's a ton of people out there that would be head over heels over what you're doing.
And I would argue that what we're doing right now is me attempting to do that.
Touche.
Right? Like, that's the whole point of this podcast is and then the how we make Freeform Fridays, we're gonna go into the nuts and bolts of it a little bit. But the parameters of the project are very simple, right? We're gonna record it multicam if we can. Multicam if we can. If the cameras are available, shoot it multicam. If the microphones are available, record it properly. But it's a live performance. It's a continuous performance. Well, it's a single take. It's not, I don't chop it up and, like, there's other bands that do a similar thing, but they'll heavily edit it in post. And I don't have the time. So I just have to I've had to become very zen with how I play and where I'm at as a musician and keep practicing. And that's ultimately I hope the lesson I've learned by doing this is the lesson that every musician learns of, this is where you are, now keep at it. You're doing good, just, there's always something to work on. But what I've also learned is I can't let myself be paralyzed by, I'm not good enough yet. So Might as well dump it out there. Plus, we do all the covers. You know, we do a lot of things. We do a lot of, we talk about Freeform Fridays, but that's not the only thing on the Jazz Destroyers channel. We do pop covers, we do jazz standards, we do original content, where, like, I've written things for the band. And ultimately, the pop covers are there for the discovery aspect. The reason people do go on YouTube and search for, I don't know, Eye of the Tiger covers. And we did a really nice Eye of the Tiger cover. And we did a really nice...
Mario Brothers.
The Mario Brothers cover is pretty good. Though that one didn't seem to get much traction on the search results. I need to revisit the tags. So if anybody wants to go share that... That's the other thing, though, is, like, I also need the audience to understand how important it is to thumbs up videos, to share the videos. Like, my own mother, I have to, like, prod her and be like, you know, if you share the Jazz Destroyer stuff, it helps. Like, they don't think of sharing, but ultimately, otherwise, if we're not freely sharing this stuff, then I'm stuck having to pay for ads, and it makes so little money off the YouTube ad revenue, so little. I will, at where we are right now, if I continue on a linear trend, I will die before Google has to cut me a check. I will be dead, right? I don't make real money at it, and if I do make real money at it, I've got a team of people that I'm splitting that with. Because it would be, why would I keep all that money? Everybody pitched in. You pitched in, you pitched in. If the video makes $100 and you're one of 5 guys that worked on the video, there's your 20%. Like, we don't have to overcomplicate this. And so as a label, I try to just be as honest and realistic about it. And it's just like, yeah, I'm a guy with a mountain of gear and a lot of know-how, and I just want to play and pay me and I just want to be treated as an equal, just as I try to treat everybody. All right, I think you look like you are sick of me rambling, so.
Jay, what gave you that idea?
I just noticed. So the next topic, the last one. Greg, will you pass me our... We're doing a weekly, everybody gets a trophy. So we're going to go around the room, and we're going to we're going to make up an award that each person gets. So the participation award goes to Carissa.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Would you like to make a speech?
No.
All right.
In the spirit of participation.
In the spirit of participation. No, you can't give it back to me. You got to give it to one of these guys.
Come on. I got a perfect one for you.
All right, fine.
The inability to be brief award.
Oh.
Yeah, that's kind of what
goes
I was
to Dawn.
thinking.
All right. Brevity is not my thing. All right. The Brevity Award goes to Steven, because that podcast of yours, how long is that podcast?
20 to 30 minutes.
No, they're not that long, are they?
That's about the average.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, and you cover big topics in great detail in that time.
That's true.
And yeah, you're not super floored with your language.
I just try to get the point across.
Sure.
Sometimes that requires repetition, because that's what preachers do best.
Yep. All right.
See, I also had a really good one for you. But
All right, well then give me the one. Everybody gets a trophy, though.
Everybody gets multiple trophies.
Everybody gets multiple trophies.
Dawn does, anyway.
Dawn gets multiple trophies.
It was the completely unironic trophy for sincere intent.
Thank you. I actually really appreciate that. That sincere intent. That's a good way of putting it. That's what we'll have next time. Get off my lawn records. At least we have sincere intent. Right? And the award for most likely to be killed by death squad if Trump gets elected goes to Greg Sisko.
That's probably true.
I have maintained that since writing that book, if he wins, you're going to have to leave the country, bro.
I thought I was going to hide out in your attic.
We'll wall over the closet for you.
I'll be Assange and you be the Ecuadorian embassy.
Yo, with my luck, you'd wind up Anne Frank.
Or that.
Yeah.
I'll keep a little video blog that will end abruptly.
Now, one of the best things that I read this week was that one day, 10 years from now, Donald Trump is going to look a reporter in the eye and say, I never ran for president.
I shared that one on Facebook. Yeah, that one's pretty good. Awesome. I think that concludes the Get Off My Lawn Records podcast.
Oh, thank God.
I've got enough content for the week. And now we're going to break this down. We're going to let Steven record the Irreverent Walker Escape from Ignorance. How many episodes are you doing this year?
It's a set of 10.
10.
That'll be the initial run. And then we'll see how that goes, and we'll see if there's a season 2.
Got it. And you're going to have one written for next week?
Yes.
Cool.
Maybe.
Well, I mean, schedules will depend entirely on what
You're
what the
usually
schedule is.
wrangling the truth right at the last bitter second.
Always.
Always.
Always. So thanks for watching, everybody. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, right? Because we're going to do these daily. And, yeah.